This is Aiden Fucci, the notorious teen behind a brutal Florida juvenile crime. On May 9, 2021, St. John's, Florida, witnessed a heinous crime when 14-year-old Aiden Fucci fatally stabbed 13-year-old Tristan Bailey 114 times, abandoning her dead body in the woods. Believing he had escaped, subsequent security footage damningly captured the crime's aftermath. In one video, we see Fucci's mother attempting to clean his blood-stained jeans. Despite attending the same school and living in the same neighborhood as Bailey, Fucci showed no remorse. Evident in a Snapchat video, he's seen enjoying himself in a police car after the murder, having fun in a cop car. The situation grows more disturbing, with footage from his detention showing Fucci unfazed during a conversation with his parents.
You know they found this girl, right? In her neighborhood, down our main street.
Is she good?
No,
she's not.
she's dead. That's why this is very important. It's all on you right now.
This is my problem.
You were
You
the
were
last
the
one
last
with
one
her.
seen with her. So right now, it's facing you right now, son.
This is very serious, Aiden. You can't act like I don't know. I don't know. You can't, and you can't
You
say
understand
nothing.
this is
that's gonna mess
serious? Clearly. You understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
you up. Everything you say will affect you.
As the trial commenced, Fucci, tried as an adult, faced first-degree murder charges. The evidence was damning. The knife used in the crime, security footage, and witness accounts from friends and his girlfriend all pointed to premeditated murder. 114 stab wounds, 49 defensive wounds, 35 wounds to the head and neck, 29 to the back and shoulder, and 6 fatal wounds. Aiden kept knives for protection. He always had a knife on him. If he wasn't at school, he would keep his AirPods. He listened to music to try and calm him down. He said that helped him with his anger. The trial's emotional peak was reached with victim impact statements, particularly from Tristan's sister, who presented 114 heart-shaped marbles, symbolizing each wound inflicted on her sister.
This jar now holds 114 stones, one for each of the 114 stab wounds that my sister had to endure. I bear the thoughts that one day the trauma we have all been through because of the actions of Aiden Fucci will cost the lives of my other family members. I have been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. I have been unable to work at times during this process due to the trauma and PTSD attacks triggered by knives, blood, and open wounds. My relationships have suffered. My physical and mental health has diminished, and my goals for the future have seemingly disappeared. Aiden Fucci didn't just take Tristan's life that day. He took everything from us.
As the verdict came, Fucci was sentenced to life in prison for the brutal murder of Tristan Bailey, a sentence reflective of the monstrous nature of his crime.
Mr. Fucci, having entered a plea of guilty to the crime of first-degree murder, I adjudicate you guilty of the premeditated first-degree murder of Tristan Bailey. I sentence you to life in prison.
Aiden was just 14 years old when he killed Tristan. This is Mackenzie Shirila, a 17-year-old who was found guilty of murder for causing a car crash that killed her boyfriend and his friend. Mackenzie decided death was the ultimate goal that day. This was not reckless driving. This was murder. Shirila's boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and his friend, Davon Flanagan, were in the car when she crashed into the side of a commercial building outside of Cleveland, going 100 miles per hour. Both men were pronounced dead at the scene, and Shirila survived. Prosecutors argued that the teen had a toxic relationship and that Shirila had made violent threats against her boyfriend, threatening his property and threatening to break into his house. Reportedly, she crashed her car on purpose because she wanted to kill her boyfriend, and his friend was just collateral damage. The prosecutor said the intent was obvious upon seeing the video. You see her driving very calmly, making a right turn, and then immediately putting the pedal to the metal and driving straight into a building at 100 miles per hour. A few days before the crash, she allegedly took the same route to plot the crime. This is where the judge now finds her guilty. Count 1 finds the defendant, Mackenzie Shirilla, guilty of the murder of Dominic Russo. She now stands up to be placed in handcuffs as she continues to tear up. Count 2 finds the defendant, Mackenzie Shirilla, guilty of the murder of Davin Flanagan. Shirilla now has a moment to speak before her sentencing.
So deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken now.
There was no mechanical failure of the car. A failed suicide attempt is not a defense to murder. There's a very good likelihood, Mackenzie, that you will spend the rest of your life in prison. She's sentenced on count 1 to 15 years to life, and on count 2 to 15 years to life, to be served concurrently. The judge just sentenced her to 15 years to life in prison. This is Willard Miller and Jeremy Goodale. At just 16 years old, they are both charged with the murder of their high school Spanish teacher. Reportedly, it was over a bad grade. We then moved her off the trail where I struck her, and she died as a result. Miller and Goodale went to Fairfield High School in southeastern Iowa. Nohema Graber was the Spanish teacher at the school, and Miller was one of her students. After he received a bad grade from Graber, he and his friend Goodale planned to kill her.
And we discussed a general plan of like I'll stand up here, if you look out, you'll walk up behind her, and then I think we walked back out onto the trail to wait for Miss Graber to show up.
Graber went for her usual walk at Chautauqua City Park. The boys knew that and waited to ambush her.
Here she comes, and I gave the signal that it's all clear, and then she walked by and hit her in the back of the head, and then I said, like, holy shit, make sure she's dead. So we hit her a couple more times.
They then dragged her into the woods and beat her to death with a baseball bat. After that, it wasn't really a plan beyond that, like hide the body, bury the body. At that time, we were going to hide the body. I guess in our arrogance, we kind of assumed that nobody would ever find her. Not long after, both boys were arrested. Court documents alleged that a witness who knew Goodale showed law enforcement Snapchat messages that showed Goodale and Miller's involvement in the murder. One of the Snapchat messages said, "Point of view, you're my Spanish teacher, and this is the last thing you see," followed by, "Time to hide a body." Jeremy Goodale would later plead guilty and testify against his best friend, Miller. I understood that he had the intent to kill Mrs. Graber. What is your plea to murder in the first degree? Guilty or not guilty? Guilty. This is the moment that Goodale gets to speak before his sentence.
I've had time to think on what to say, and I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Every day I wish I could go back and stop myself. I can't comprehend losing a loved one in such an awful way.
And now, the judge hands down his sentence. The defendant shall be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Now for Miller, this is him apologizing before he receives his sentence.
I would like to take this opportunity to wholeheartedly accept responsibility for the role that I've played in the murder of Nohema Graber. I would like to apologize for my actions, first and foremost, to the family. I'm sincerely sorry for the distress that I've caused you and the devastation I've caused your family. And I ask that I'm given a chance, and I don't want to be institutionalized. I don't want to be in so long that I forget about what matters, where I come from, and what I need to do. I look forward to getting through this. Thank you.
And now the judge has some final words. The defendant, Willard Noble Chaden Miller, shall be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 35 years. Miller seems to be completely unfazed. 14-year-old Philip Chisholm is pure evil, and evil can never be rehabilitated. You must imprison this killer for the rest of his life. A 9th grader, Chisholm was in court for murdering his 24-year-old school math teacher, Colleen Ritzer, on October 22, 2013. Colleen was known for her dedication to her students, and on that fateful day, she had asked Chisholm to stay after school for additional lessons. Little did she know that her kindness would lead to a horrific end. Chisholm came prepared with a knife, a change of clothes, and gloves. He followed her into a restroom where he took her life. His brutality didn't stop there. He robbed, assaulted, and abused her afterward. He disposed of her lifeless body by placing it in a garbage bin and dragging it behind the school in a futile attempt to cover up his crimes. Chisholm then went into town and used Ritzer's credit card to buy a movie ticket. However, he was traced down and arrested by the police the next morning. He still had Colleen's blood on his hands. While the magnitude of Chisholm's crimes is daunting, his courtroom behavior will leave you in disbelief. Philip Chisholm faced multiple charges, including murder, aggravated rape, and armed robbery. Throughout the court proceedings, Chisholm displayed a shocking lack of remorse. Even as the victim's father read his statement, killer knew exactly what he was doing and has never shown remorse. His demeanor and actions demonstrated a complete disregard for the gravity of his crimes and the immeasurable pain he had inflicted on Colleen Ritzer's family, even in the face of a touching tribute by Colleen's brother.
Put this animal behind bars for the maximum possible sentence, and I beg of you, Your Honor, do not give this coward the opportunity to shatter another family's lives.
Chisholm remained cold and unrepentant. His attorneys claimed that he was mentally unstable, and that did not work. In February 2016, the court imposed the mandatory life sentence for the murder of Colleen Ritzer and set a parole eligibility date of 25 years, the highest level the law allows. However, while Chisholm's reaction could certainly be dismissed as an effect of a mental illness, the same can't be said for the case of 16-year-old Sierra Health and 18-year-old Aaron Guerrero. Where did the evil come that was bred into a soul that murders its own father, who is facing multiple charges, including murder with a deadly weapon, arson, robbery with a deadly weapon, conspiracy to conduct the robbery, and multiple counts of FR fraudulent use of credit or debit cards at the Regional Justice Center in Las Vegas? The teenage couple murdered Sierra's father, 45-year-old Daniel H.T.H.H. They stabbed him over 60 times and attempted to burn his body in-house. Then they took his debit card and fled to Salt Lake City, indulged themselves, and opened a YouTube channel where they callously shared information like this day 3.
Day 3 after murdering somebody.
Whoa! Don't put that on the camera.
Wow, don't put that on the camera. The teen dated in 2020, but their parents did not approve of the relationship, forcing them to end it. On April 9th, 2021, Daniel's lifeless body was discovered in the garage of his Las Vegas home. The teenagers were subsequently apprehended in Salt Lake City throughout the court proceedings. The behavior of Sierra was starkly different from that of Aaron. Aaron Guerrero seems to be emotionally breaking down when he was allowed to speak. He had this to say.
I ask for forgiveness as I get sentenced today, and I hope it brings you a little peace.
Meanwhile, Sierra HTH appeared disinterested, bored, and detached from the gravity of the situation. She claimed that her father had physically and sexually abused her. He locks me in place and starts pushing me and hitting me around. Eventually, they were both found guilty by District Judge Tiara Jones, 55 days credit for time served. That is a total aggregate sentence of life in the NADA Department of Corrections, with the possibility toll after 22 years of good service in order to pay $5,000 and restitution for Sierra's grandmother. A lot has changed.
You're in a tough spot because your son is the victim and the killer is your granddaughter. Can you talk about that?
Well, she's not my granddaughter.
If you thought these reactions were shocking, you'd be amazed at this video. The top 5 biggest judge explosions of all time.